If you struggle to keep anthuriums alive, this video is for you. I'm giving you a fail-proof method to keep them alive and thriving that works. And it doesn't matter if you're a beginner plant parent or an experienced one. Hi, my name is Britt, also known as Botanically Bee, and on this channel we talk about all things plants, home, and lifestyle. So make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any other videos. So anthuriums, let's talk about it because I have always loved these types of plants, but could never keep them alive. I've tried all the substrates, whether it be a soil mix, pon, leca, perlite, sphagnum moss, and none of them have worked for me. But one day I got really curious and was like, you know what? I've never tried to put anthuriums in Kokedama. And if you don't know what Kokedama is, simply put, the word translates into moss ball. In a lot of Asian cultures, this is the way that they would display their plants. And I've made Kokedama in the past with other types of plants, but never an anthurium. So I was like, what do I have to lose? Let me try it out and see. And I've had great success since doing so. Like this guy, this is my very first anthurium Kokedama. And after I did it, I was a little skeptical with myself. I just wanted to see if it would work because it was something that I hadn't tried. And it ended up pushing off 2 new leaves not too long after I did this Kokedama method. I do want to note that this isn't the traditional Kokedama. I would say this is more of a Kokedama inspired because Kokedama gets real serious, real detailed, and real intricate in the way that you create it, even the way that you style it, the moss that you use, like it's an art. But after I tried it with this Anthurium crystallinum and started seeing results, I was like, okay, I think every anthurium I'm just gonna do a Kokedama for. I did some other ones and have also been having great results with those. And I'm happy to report that this one is pushing off 2 more new leaves, so it absolutely loves it. Now, I recently won this beautiful anthurium at the Texas Aroid Show, and this is an Anthurium Magnificum times Doc Block F2, and it is stunning, as you can see. I mean, can we get into it? Because, wow. But as soon as I won it, after the awe and the excitement about having such a beautiful plant, I was like, okay, I immediately need to get this home and put it in Kokedama. So that's what we're gonna do today, and I'm gonna show you exactly what I do with putting anthuriums in a Kokedama style display and give you the care tips to maintain it if you decide to do one yourself. So first things first, we got to get it out of the pot, and I'm already a little stressed because like look at the roots right here. I can't even show you, but like I don't know if you can see that chunk. This one's gonna be a interesting one to say the least, because the smaller ones are easy. It wasn't hard to transfer it out of its pot into Kokedama, but I feel like this one may be my biggest challenge yet. If you have a plant that is really root bound, which, you know, like when I pull this up, it's kind of hard to get it out of the pot. What I like to do is just loosen up the root ball by squeezing the sides of the pot, and then we lift it up. Oh my gosh, okay. Actually, first, let's get the hanger off of the pot so we're not fighting with that as well. So, hanger off. I want you to see these roots because I saw like a little peek when I was lifting the pot. Are you kidding me? Do you see the roots on this guy? Oh my gosh, I don't even know. I'm nervous, but I'm excited, so let's continue. Oh gosh, it's so top heavy. I think I'm just have to like lay it down a little bit. Oh gosh, this plant makes me nervous. So some of the supplies that you're going to need are sheet moss. I get this from Lowe's. I like this style moss to wrap my Kokedama in because it is flat and it just makes it easier to cup the ball, as you'll see me do in the process. Sphagnum moss, which I like to wrap around the roots. It just kind of creates an extra hug around the roots and keeps them from drying out too much, which has really worked with trying it with the other Kokedamas that I've done. I'm also using some of my Total Custom Chunky Mix This has a soil base, fir bark, perlite, horticultural charcoal, and it's gonna be really good to give some nutrients because nothing else that I'm using will have nutrients in there, and it's just gonna feed the roots of the plant. And then eventually I'll start using fertilizer water when I water it, but this really helps to sustain it for a while before having to introduce extra nutrients through, like I said, fertilizer, water, or anything like that. You can use any soil that you choose. You just want it to be a little bit more dense, meaning that it will retain some moisture and almost kind of ball up in your hand. You don't want it to be too chunky. With the soil, I'm gonna pour it in a bowl of water because we want to get it nice and damp so that we can create a ball-like shape around the roots, as you'll see me do. And lastly, you'll need some twine or just some kind of string to tie it all together. You can also use fishing wire as well if you want more of an invisible look, but I like using twine, so we're gonna use twine. So first things first is I'm not really gonna do anything with these roots. I don't wanna disturb it. I really don't. I don't want it to fall out or anything like that. Typically though, if you had an anthurium that was potted in soil, you could keep a lot of the soil that it's already in and just kind of form it into a ball. If it's in a different substrate, you would definitely want something to bind the roots in a ball-like shape. So again, this is kind of already doing its thing. So we're just gonna work with what it's already doing, and I'm not gonna do too much manipulation to this. We'll do it like that. But I'm looking at it because, like, what are those little... Y'all ever do that? Y'all just be in the middle of something and then see something on the leaf and just go into full search mode? Because I do that all the time. Because of the way that the roots are, it's gonna be a little harder. So I'm trying to think. Actually, that's not gonna work at all. You know what? Improvision. Hold on. We're gonna do the sphagnum moss and we're gonna mix some of the soil in like that. There we go. This is probably gonna be like the biggest kokedama I ever make in my life. It looks like I'm struggling a little bit, but just have to remember we are improvising. So basically what you're gonna do is wrap it around. You wanna get as much sphagnum moss and make sure you're also wringing out the excess water. You don't want the sphagnum moss or the soil to be soaking wet. This one might low-key need 2 people, I'm not even gonna lie. Okay, if you have one as big as this, I would say at this step, I'm going to secure it with some twine. I wouldn't necessarily do it at this step, but because you see how big it is, I can't like hold it in 2 hands and then try and do all of what I wanna do. Tie around this just to hold this in place, and then I'll go to like the next section. This honestly like looks like a mess, I know, but trust the process. And the thing too is you want to make sure that you're covering all of the roots. The ball will come later, but just make sure you're covering all of the roots. Where did I just put that twine? Oh my gosh, it's right here. Blending in with the sphagnum moss. Okay, so I'm not making like knots with the twine. I'm just trying to make sure it's securing as much of the moss as possible. I have never done one this big, but it can be done. It's not that it's impossible. It's just gonna take a little time. And then I'm also trying not to tear any of these leaves. Oh my gosh. Okay. And even if you have to leave the twine on, like, it's okay. The goal was just to get all of, or as much of, the roots covered as possible. Again, the ball part will come later. I'm gonna go ahead and get the sheet moss ready. This one definitely needed 2 people. This is what the sheet moss looks like. As you can see, it comes out on a sheet. And because this one is so big, I got several of them because I didn't know how much I would need. Oops, put that down. And we're gonna put it on top now so that we can start the ball. I'm probably gonna go ahead and just tie that all together so that I'm not having to hold it. And basically all I'm gonna do with one hand, I'm just gonna secure one finger and then the other one is going to be the guider. This is crazy. This has got to be like the biggest, well, I'm pretty sure it's not the biggest kokedama. I've seen big kokedamas, honestly, but this for sure is the biggest one I've done. I thought this was going to be all smooth and like aesthetic. Nah, this thing is messy, but again, just trust the process. All right, let's see. That kind of helped a little bit. Just keeping it together. So that's fine. And the string won't hurt the roots or anything like that. Like it'll just grow around it. So don't worry about that. But let me get out some more of the sheet moss because yeah, now we have to work with the sheet moss and basically cup it to make the big ball. That's a nice one. It's like a big pillow. We're going to cover it. I don't know if you can see the vision yet. I'm loving it. I can see the vision. I'm gonna create the cupping shape and we're covering as much of the sphagnum moss ball as possible now with the sheet moss. Okay, so we're gonna work in small sections. So you wanna get a very long piece. Just put it on the floor and let that thing roll. Let's go ahead and start. And as you're tying it, I've lost my placeholder. You want to make sure you're kind of like pulling it taut and going in many directions. Not gonna lie, I'm doubting myself a little bit, but I have to see it through. I don't feel like I am, but make sure I'm getting the bottom layer. The hardest part is not even this ball, it's just making sure I don't damage the leaves, you know? So I've come to the end of this first string and I've met myself at the other end. Again, I don't know if you could see that because I know that these leaves are huge and I'm just doing like the best knot that I can, but ideally you would want it to be super tight. I'm just trying to get some shape in right now so that I could work better as it starts to form. But it looks like everything is covered. So now we go in and do the same thing, but we go tighter. And yeah, we just keep doing that until everything is secure. But now you can see I can pick it up and it's like staying together. So that's a good sign. I'm tired. Not like a ball, but we're gonna shape it. And again, you wanna go all different ways. I mean, you can honestly put the string on however you want, but I like going all different ways because I just feel like it covers all areas and I don't have to worry about anything falling out. So, but you can go one direction and just, you know, make sure that all the area is covered too. So I think I will stop there and we're gonna see how it is. So basically, I'm gonna cut the string and I'm going to find a point to tie it, like another end. And then we're gonna just tie it in the tightest of knots. I know you can't see me saying that, but just make sure you tie it in a knot. Like I just tied it in a regular knot right here. And now it needs a little shaping. To the salon! Basically, what I like to do is start forming it into a ball. This looks like a pumpkin. I'm not mad at it, but I had to basically shape this one as well. And then it sits on a flat surface, so naturally it will flatten at the bottom to have it be able to sit up. But this one, we are going to shape it as much as possible. And that's basically just kind of gently but firmly pressing it in. And by doing so, you want to make sure that nothing is like loosening. And if it is, you got to go back in with some string as you shape it. Because I can see like this area doesn't have a lot of support. So, or the string is not very tight there. Just want to get into a ball shape or as much of a sphere-like shape as possible. Might be it for this guy because that's insane. I kind of like it like this, I'm not gonna lie. So I'm gonna go in with one more good string just to make sure it's tightened, because when I did that, it kind of compressed it, which loosened up the tension from the string. So some of it is a little loose, but that's fine. Naturally, it's gonna happen. So we're gonna do one more round of string. I won't need as much this time. I just want to do one more secure. So just like I mentioned in the beginning, what you're supposed to do, take one side, make sure you just kind of pin it down, and then use the other. You gotta pin it down and hold it, but use the other to kind of go around with it. Of course, this one is harder, but as soon as you get your first round, then you can go tighter. Just kind of make sure you're putting as much tension on that. Again, this one's hard because the leaves are flopping everywhere. And normally I would use the table to anchor myself, but I have to anchor myself in the air, which makes it harder, but all good. So now it's tighter in terms of how to tie the knot. Just make sure, like when you're tying it, that it feels secure, that it feels like there's enough tension on the knot and the string that it feels like it'll be tight and not loose. And then all the extras, you can either cut off the excess or you could just like tuck it in. And with this sheet moss, as green and as beautiful as it is, I think it's dyed. So when you water it and as you continue to water it, it will bleed green, meaning that the dye will start to come off, which is not a terrible thing. Like you'll see when I wet this, that it still has some green. It's just not as green as it started with. Like I used the same sheet moss, and this is what happens over time. Even the twine will start to turn color, so it won't look like this after a while, which I'm perfectly fine with. I just want the function of it, and of course the aesthetic, but I feel like it's just kind of part of the aesthetic, and that's okay. So let me clean up this mess, and then I'll come back and tell you about how I care for my kokedamas. So let's talk about the care of these kokedama style plants. All I do once a week is just put it under the faucet in the sink and give it a good water. I just make sure that it is fully soaked, and then I put it on display wherever it goes, and that's it. I know it seems like you should do a lot more with these, but that's why I love them, because they are so low maintenance, and I feel like it honestly takes care of itself. I believe the nutrients in the soil, the moisture from the sphagnum moss, and then it being wrapped up tight with the sheet moss and the string helps it to kind of create this damp hug that I feel anthuriums must love around their roots. But then it also starts to dry up. So as the week goes on, all the air in your home, I leave my fans on 24/7. So a lot of my kokedamas are in rooms that have a lot of airflow. But as it starts to dry up, it's, getting sunlight. It allows the soil and the sphagnum moss, I'm sure, in the inside to dry up as well. You'll know when it's time to water the plants because they get extremely light. So you want to take note of what it feels like, the weight when you water it, and then what it feels like with the weight when it's super dry. Also with anthuriums, you'll know when it's time for them to be watered, especially in these kokedama styles, because their leaves will get soft. They're not as firm as they were when they were watered. So they're kind of telling you, hey, it's time to water. But I can just tell this one feels very light. And even as big as this one is and as heavy as it is, I will take note of what it feels like when I fully saturate it, and then what it feels like when it's dry. Now you can water these with nutrient water as well. I haven't really done that. I haven't had the need to, so to speak, because again, the nutrients in the soil have lasted and feed the roots, which is why I'm seeing new growth in a lot of the other ones that I have. But eventually those nutrients will run out and I will need to water it. So I'll probably soak it in a bowl or in the sink with some nutrient water and it'll do just fine. In terms of lighting, I give it what the Anthurium wants, which is a lot of bright light. I don't put it in direct sun like a south facing window, but my other ones are in east and west facing windows, which are morning and afternoon sun, which Anthuriums love. So I will have to find a spot for this big guy. I really don't even know where I'm going to put it, but it will be in an area where it gets a lot of sun. You'll know when your Kokedama is established, when you start to see new growth, you'll know that it's happy, and you just wanna be patient and give that time. If you start to see a decline, it could be that it's acclimating depending on how much you manipulated the roots, or if you did anything really drastic in just transitioning into Kokedama. As you see, I didn't disturb the roots. I didn't want to do anything. I simply wanted to transplant it into a different kind of display. Now, if you know you didn't do any of that and you start seeing yellowing leaves, it could be one, that it's drying out too much. I wouldn't say that you could overwater these unless you're watering them every day. I really do encourage you to let these dry out and they will be fine. So I would give it a couple of weeks and just see if it irons itself out, because plants typically will bounce back and figure it out themselves. But if you see a decline and continue to see a decline with weeks and weeks to come, then there might be something going on with the roots and you might want to dismantle it and then just see what's going on and make sure there's no root rot or anything like that. I did have some questions in the TikTok video that I did with this one, where they were saying, you know, what happens when the plant outgrows the Kokedama? Like, what do you do? And I did actually have one of my Kokedamas outgrow the moss ball that it was in. The roots were starting to grow out of it at the bottom. And basically, I just took it apart and made a bigger Kokedama for it. You can also just do the same process on top of the Kokedama, but I just took it apart just to make sure the roots were good, inspect everything. That gave me an opportunity to do so. And then I just redid it and created a bigger Kokedama for it. And that's it. That is my fail-proof method for Anthuriums, or really just any plants that you want to have an aesthetic display, an easy, low maintenance way of taking care of it. And for me, with these Anthuriums, a way to keep them beautiful and pristine. I've not had any issues, no crispy leaves, no yellowing, like nothing. All the problems that I used to have with Anthuriums and trying to grow them in any other substrate, I've never had any issues with doing a Kokedama for it. I'll keep you posted on this Kokedama and give you an update when it pushes off its new leaf. Whenever that happens, I'll know that it's happy. So let me know if you have any questions. Would you try this Kokedama style on any of your plants or your Anthuriums? Let me know what has worked for you with Anthuriums and help someone out in the comments, because there might be people that have questions and are struggling with the same thing as me. And of course, this is not the only way, but this is a fail-proof method for me. Don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future videos. And I'll see you in the next one.